The story of Ahsoka Tano's time as a Jedi ends with her alone in the darkness, a fugitive from an empire that does not know her name but hunts her nonetheless. It ends with her carrying the weight of survival when nearly everyone she trained alongside is dead. It ends with her knowing that the institution she trusted, that shaped her from childhood, proved itself capable of betrayal. But it also ends with something else. It ends with her knowing that she trusts her own judgment. It ends with her understanding that institutions can fail even when built on principle. It ends with her recognizing that the cost of institutional belonging often exceeds what should be acceptable. The Jedi years made Ahsoka Tano into someone capable of surviving what comes next. They taught her to fight. They taught her to think. They taught her to value connection and to honor those around her as individuals who matter. And in the moment when the institution tried to consume her, when it demanded that she subordinate her judgment to its protection, she refused. That refusal, more than any lightsaber technique or force power, is what will define her going forward. The years with the Jedi give her the foundation. The moment of leaving gives her the clarity. And the purge gives her the understanding that she was right to trust herself, even when it meant walking away from everything she had ever known. The war is over. The Jedi Order is destroyed. The Republic has become an empire. Ahsoka Tano is alone, in hiding, carrying skills and understanding that will eventually reshape the galaxy she once tried to serve through institutions she no longer trusts. Her story continues, but the Jedi years have ended. The Clone Wars become Ahsoka's primary education. She fights separatist forces. She commands clone troops. She navigates diplomatic situations alongside a Jedi general who operates by instinct as often as doctrine. She learns not just from Anakin, but from the war itself. She learns from the clones who serve under her command. She thrives in this crucible. Her lightsaber forms evolve. Her tactical awareness deepens. She builds relationships with the clones under her command, treating them as individuals with their own identities and will. She especially grows close to Clone Captain Rex. She learns from him as much as he learns from her. These are not droids, these are people. They have names, they have personalities, they deserve respect. She develops loyalty to Anakin that transcends typical master-apprentice bonds. The Order trains Jedi to maintain emotional distance. The war dissolves those boundaries immediately. When Anakin is wounded, she refuses to leave him. When she is captured, Anakin fights with an intensity that exceeds protocol to rescue her. They trust each other absolutely. She learns that the Force responds to will and discipline in equal measure. But she also learns that the Force responds to something else. It responds to intention. It responds to connection. It responds to someone who values the people around them enough to fight for their lives, even when it breaks the formal rules of engagement. She is a teenager commanding clone troops in life-or-death battles. She makes mistakes. At the Battle of Ryloth, she loses her entire squadron when she disobeys orders and charges ahead. She returns to the cruiser devastated, feeling incredibly guilty. Anakin reprimands her for her disobedience. But he also tells her something important. He tells her that her recklessness might serve her well as his student. He means it. He sees in her the same intensity he carries. He also sees someone who will eventually learn to channel that intensity towards something larger than herself. Over months and years of fighting together, this pattern repeats. She disobeys orders because she sees a way to save lives. She charges ahead because she trusts her instincts. Sometimes it works, sometimes it costs her. Each time, Anakin is there, sometimes to rescue her, sometimes to teach her, always to believe in her capacity to learn and grow. The most important relationship Ahsoka develops during the Clone Wars is with the clones themselves. These soldiers are bred to fight. They are identical to one another. The Republic could treat them as interchangeable units, but Ahsoka does not. She sees them as individuals. She learns their names. She learns their personalities. She treats them with respect that acknowledges they are more than soldiers. Clone Captain Rex becomes her closest friend among the clones. They fight together constantly. They trust each other with their lives. When Ahsoka is captured by Trandoshan hunters and forced to survive on the jungle moon Waska, she credits her survival to Anakin's training. But she also credits Rex, the training he gave her, the example he set, the belief he had in her capacity to endure. She trains clone troops in lightsaber defense. She teaches them tactics. She learns from them how to be a better commander. She learns from them what loyalty actually means. They follow orders, yes, but they also follow her because they respect her, because they believe she will fight for their lives as fiercely as she fights for the Republic. When she develops her second lightsaber and begins to practice Jarkai, a form using two blades simultaneously, it is the clones who support her. They watch her training sessions. They offer encouragement when the form feels foreign in her hands. They celebrate with her when she masters it. The bond Ahsoka forms with the 501st Legion is deeper than military hierarchy would suggest. These soldiers see her as someone who values them as individuals. In a war designed to use them as expendable units, Ahsoka Tano treats them as people who matter. This bond will haunt her later. It will also sustain her. In the years after the war, when she thinks of what she lost, she thinks of them. As the Clone Wars continue, something shifts in the galaxy. The war drags on. Peace seems further away than ever. Ahsoka matures. Her early cockiness begins to be tempered by experience. She sees things that trouble her. She sees politicians using the war for personal gain. She sees the Jedi Order making military decisions that feel wrong. She sees the Republic tolerating corruption and inefficiency that should be challenged. She begins to wonder if the Jedi Order is what she thought it was. They speak of peace, but they wage war. They speak of serving the Republic, but they seem to serve political interests instead. They speak of balance and clarity, but their decisions increasingly feel murky and compromise-laden. Anakin feels this doubt too. She can sense it in him. He becomes more frustrated with the Council. He questions their orders more often. He grows closer to Chancellor Palpatine, trusting the Chancellor in ways that sometimes seem to worry Obi-Wan Kenobi. But Ahsoka still trusts the Order, even as doubt creeps in. She still believes in the Jedi's mission. She still wants to become a Jedi Knight. She still trusts that the Order knows what it claims to know, even when evidence suggests otherwise. One moment changes everything. On the planet Mortis, a mystical realm within the Force itself, Ahsoka encounters a vision of her older self. The vision warns her about Anakin. It tells her that his attachment to the dark side will corrupt her if she does not remove herself from his teachings. Ahsoka defends Anakin fiercely in that moment. She refuses to believe the warning. She trusts him. She trusts their connection. But the seed of doubt has been planted. What if the vision was right? What if her master is more dangerous than she understands? What if the bond she has formed with him is a liability rather than a strength? These doubts grow as the war continues. She sees Anakin making choices that feel increasingly aggressive. She sees him using power in ways that seem to exceed what the Jedi Code would allow. But she still believes in him. She still trusts him, until she cannot anymore. Near the end of the Clone Wars, an attack strikes the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The hangar is bombed. Several Jedi are killed. Clone troopers and temple workers die in the explosion. The damage is substantial. The implications are alarming. Someone inside the temple itself must be responsible. Ahsoka is accused of the bombing. The evidence appears substantial. Her involvement seems plausible to investigators convinced of her guilt before examining the facts. She is 18 years old. She is a Padawan, not yet a full Jedi Knight. The council moves toward prosecution. They debate her trial as if she is already guilty. They treat her not as an innocent person who deserves investigation, but as a problem that needs to be managed. Anakin fights for her with an intensity that exceeds protocol. He refuses to accept the council's judgment. He pursues the truth without compromise. He believes in her absolutely, but the council does not listen to him. They are more concerned with maintaining the Order's image than with establishing her innocence. Ahsoka, facing expulsion from the Order she has dedicated her life to serving, experiences a betrayal that cuts deeper than any wound in battle. She looks to the council for defense. She finds institutional self-protection instead. She looks to the Order for loyalty to one of its own. She finds bureaucratic indifference. The investigation eventually reveals the truth. The real culprit is Barriss Offee, herself a Jedi, who had come to believe the Jedi Order had become evil, corrupt, and overly belligerent during the war. Offee orchestrated the bombing to expose what she saw as the Order's moral failure. Ahsoka is exonerated, but exoneration comes too late to restore what was broken. The council offers her readmission as though she should feel grateful for mercy she should never have needed. They offer no apology for abandoning her. They acknowledge nothing systemic in their failure of judgment. Ahsoka sees clearly now. The Order prioritizes its reputation over its members. Justice yields to order. The institution's continuity matters more than the individuals within it. Barriss Offee said something during the trial that Ahsoka cannot forget. Offee said the Jedi had lost their way. Offee said the Order had become something other than what it claimed to be. And as much as Ahsoka wants to reject this assessment, she cannot, because she has begun to see it too. When Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi press Ahsoka to rejoin the Order, she refuses. She tells them she cannot stay. She tells them she needs to find a new path. Anakin is devastated. He looks at her like she is rejecting him personally. Obi-Wan seems to understand, at least partially, but even he seems to think she will change her mind, that she will eventually return to the temple. She will not. Ahsoka explains to Anakin that she felt the Council lost faith in her when they should have stood by her. She felt the Order choose institutional protection over justice. She felt the system that trained her prove itself capable of betrayal. As an apprentice, she was taught to trust the Order's wisdom. She trusted it absolutely, but the Order has shown her that trust was misplaced. Anakin understands the feeling of wanting to leave. He tells her this. But Ahsoka knows something about her master that she does not fully articulate. She knows that Anakin will stay in the Order. She knows that his frustration will fester. She knows that his isolation within the institution will grow, and she knows that if she stays, she might become entangled in whatever path he chooses. By leaving, she is not rejecting Anakin, she is protecting herself. She is honoring a truth that the institution would not allow her to speak. She is choosing autonomy over belonging. She is choosing her own judgment over institutional prescription. As she walks away from the Jedi Temple, the camera pulls back. The young woman in the Padawan outfit is leaving behind everything she has known since she was 3 years old. The institution that promised her purpose. The master who taught her the Force. The brothers in arms and the clone troops. The home she thought she would always have. But she is also walking towards something. She does not know what yet. She only knows it cannot be what the Order would offer her. The years after Ahsoka leaves the Order are difficult in ways she did not anticipate. She becomes a fugitive. Not from the law exactly, but from institutional expectation. The Jedi Order is confused by her departure. Some believe she will return. Some believe she was never truly committed to being a Jedi. Some believe she made a mistake. She works odd jobs. She takes contracts. She builds alliances with people outside formal power structures. She works with Anakin occasionally, when their paths align, though their connection carries new tension. They have become something far more complex than master and apprentice. Former partners separated by different choices about where power and principle intersect. During this period, Ahsoka develops skills the Temple never formalized. She learns to move through the galaxy's underground networks. She understands how information flows through shadow channels and illicit corridors. She discovers that the Force responds differently when you are unbound by an institution's conception of proper use. It expands. It also requires her own framework for what the Force should accomplish. The Jedi taught her that attachment leads to suffering. Experience teaches her something more nuanced. Isolation leads to fracture. Connection leads to consequence. She learns to inhabit consequence instead of fleeing it through detachment. She also watches the galaxy transform. The Clone Wars continue, grinding on endlessly. The Republic fractures as corruption spreads. She witnesses the rise of something darker, an empire consolidating power. She understands immediately what the Jedi apparently cannot see clearly. The war was always designed to consolidate power. The Jedi were tools in that consolidation, not guardians against it. Near the end of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka is drawn back into the conflict. Bo-Katan cries. A Mandalorian she fought alongside years earlier asks for her help. Maul has taken over Mandalore. The Jedi need to be involved. The Republic needs to respond. But Ahsoka is no longer a Jedi. She has no official status. She has no institutional authority. She volunteers anyway. She fights in the siege of Mandalore. She captures Maul. She stands on the precipice of understanding something crucial about her former master. She feels something shift in the Force, something dark, something wrong. Then the clones turn. Order 66 is executed. The clone troopers, the soldiers she fought alongside for years, the men she trusted with her life, are suddenly executing Jedi across the galaxy. The organic implants in their brains, inhibitor chips she knew nothing about, forced them to become executioners. Captain Rex reaches for his blaster to kill her. She sees the conflict in his eyes. She sees him fighting against the implant's control. She sees the man she respects trying to stop himself from murdering her. In that moment, something in her breaks and something else hardens. She saves Rex by destroying the inhibitor chip. She escapes with him from the cruiser as it crashes. She buries the clone troopers who die in the crash, leaving behind their helmets as markers of their graves. These are not droid units to be discarded. These are soldiers who died serving a republic that betrayed them, controlled by a system they did not understand. In the aftermath of the Jedi Purge, Ahsoka is alone in a way she has never been before. Nearly every Jedi has been systematically eliminated. The Republic has become an empire. The clones who fought alongside her have been either killed in action or enslaved by their own biology. She fakes her own death. She goes into hiding. She becomes a ghost story. Rumors circulate through underground networks that a former Jedi survived the Purge. Some claim to have worked with her. Others insist they have only heard her name spoken in whispers. The Empire hunts her with particular intensity, sensing that surviving Jedi represent both symbolic and tactical threat. She must move constantly. She must trust no one completely. She must maintain vigilance at all times. But she survives. And in surviving, she learns something crucial. Leaving the Jedi Order was not a mistake. It was the choice that saved her life. If she had remained in the temple, she would have been there when Order 66 was executed. She would have died with the other Jedi. The very act of rejecting the institution, of choosing autonomy over belonging, of walking away when the institution could not meet her moral standards, this is what allows her to persist when nearly everyone else is destroyed. She does not see this as vindication. She does not think, I was right to leave. Instead, she carries a more complex understanding. She was right to trust her own judgment. She was right to recognize that institutions can fail. She was right to choose clarity over comfort. But clarity comes at a cost. She has lost her master. She has lost her brothers in arms in the clone troops. She has lost the home she has known since she was 3 years old. She is alive. But she is also profoundly alone. And in that solitude, she must now figure out who she is without the institution that defined her for so long. The story of Ahsoka Tano's time as a Jedi ends with her alone in the darkness, a fugitive from an empire that does not know her name but hunts her nonetheless. It ends with her carrying the weight of survival when nearly everyone she trained alongside is dead. It ends with her knowing that the institution she trusted, that shaped her from childhood, proved itself capable of betrayal. But it also ends with something else. It ends with her knowing that she trusts her own judgment. It ends with her understanding that institutions can fail, even when built on principle. It ends with her recognizing that the cost of institutional belonging often exceeds what should be acceptable. The Jedi years made Ahsoka Tano into someone capable of surviving what comes next. They taught her to fight. They taught her to think. They taught her to value connection and to honor those around her as individuals who matter. And in the moment when the institution tried to consume her, when it demanded that she subordinate her judgment to its protection, she refused. That refusal, more than any lightsaber technique or force power, is what will define her going forward. The years with the Jedi give her the foundation. The moment of leaving gives her the clarity. And the Purge gives her the understanding that she was right to trust herself, even when it meant walking away from everything she had ever known. The war is over. The Jedi Order is destroyed. The Republic has become an empire. Ahsoka Tano is alone, in hiding, carrying skills and understanding that will eventually reshape the galaxy she once tried to serve through institutions she no longer trusts. Her story continues, but the Jedi years have ended.